What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Saturday, January 31st, 2026, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 16:32 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Iran. I wanted to update you guys with all the latest breaking news on Iran because it looks like Trump is about to strike Iran and take out the supreme leader of Iran, the Ayatollah Khamenei. But before I get into all of that, I wanted to show you what we have going on over the U.S. right now this afternoon. We have a U.S. presidential doomsday plane airborne over Missouri, and it took off from Strategic Command Headquarters in Offutt Air Base. So obviously, U.S. strategic forces and continuity of government protocols have been enacted and are on high alert. So definitely this is related to Iran and the upcoming strike on Iran, which could be any day now. So we have breaking news coming in that Bahrain has conducted an unscheduled test of their nationwide emergency alert system. And on January 30th, that's yesterday, joint activities and training with NORAD, specifically the Eastern Air Defense Sector, that's the eastern part of the U.S., under the operational control of Huntress and Continental NORAD Region 1, continued in Florida's airspace. So they're doing this big air defense exercise across the East Coast, and yesterday they were doing it in Florida. The exercise featured key participation from B-1 strategic bombers and F-16 fighter jets. The central objectives of this activity were to test and refine real-time interoperability protocols between attack units and air defense forces, validate response times and procedures for identifying and intercepting unconventional aerial threats, and strengthen coordination between the fighter command and attack crews in a simulated yet realistic operational environment, all aimed at ensuring maximum readiness and deterrence for the defense of sovereign airspace. Wow. So they were doing a massive air defense exercise across the East Coast the past few days, which involved B-1s and F-16s confronting unconventional aerial threats. It sounds to me like they were practicing for potentially a drone attack on the U.S. And decision-making circles in the U.S. and Israel have effectively decided on military action against Iran, a Western official told Iran International. The operation under discussion would be quote-unquote unprecedented, the likes of which have not been seen before, the source added. The source also told Iran International that recent assessments identify the primary objective as delivering a decisive blow to ultimately collapse Iran's governing structure. The decision has been made. This will happen. The only question is when. Okay, so it's not a matter of if they're going to strike Iran, it's when. And it's going to be quote-unquote unprecedented, the likes of which have never been seen before. And apparently the Iranian government is going to be targeted. So this is huge news, guys. And when this all happens, I'm going to be covering it live as long as necessary. So make sure you have notifications turned on for my YouTube channel. You got to hit the little bell icon down below this video and click all, so you get notified of all of my updates. Also, you can download my app from the Google Play Store for free. It's 100% free. No advertisements, no spam. It lets me send updates directly to your phone when things are breaking, and I can also notify you when I post updates and when I go live. And non-essential diplomatic staff from multiple countries are being evacuated from the Middle East, with departures expected to continue over the next 24 to 48 hours. U.S. President Donald Trump is weighing a major strike on Iran that could include strikes aimed at Iran's leadership and security officials, as well as strikes on Iranian nuclear sites and government institutions, CNN reported on Wednesday, citing sources. Trump is considering new U.S. airstrikes on Iran after quiet diplomatic contacts failed to produce progress. The U.S. and Iran exchanged messages through Omani mediators and between Steve Witkoff and Iran's foreign minister, and briefly discussed a possible in-person meeting that never happened. Trump now believes his military options have expanded with a U.S. carrier strike group in the region. So if you're not aware, the USS Abraham Lincoln has already been moved into position. It's about 700 kilometers off the coast of Iran. And we're hearing that there's as many as 10 U.S. destroyers off of Iran, bringing the total number of vertical launch cells to well over 750 vertical launch cells between all those guided missile destroyers. So that's 750 offensive or defensive missiles that can be used in one shot. U.S. intelligence also indicates Iran is rebuilding its nuclear sites deeper underground and blocking U.S. inspections. Trump also weighed military options against Iran that included targeted strikes on the regime's security forces to inspire protesters and create conditions for an uprising, multiple sources told Reuters. Trump is considering ways to assure demonstrators they could successfully storm and take over government buildings, but it looks like he backed away from that because now they're talking about a full-scale strike on Iran involving a complete destruction of the regime and all their missile sites and nuclear sites. And the BBC News has verified reports that at least 10 U.S. warships are currently operating in the Middle East, including the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln. Additionally, ship tracking data from marine traffic shows the guided missile destroyer USS Delbert Black transiting the Suez Canal on Wednesday, heading towards the Persian Gulf. And earlier this week, we had a large movement of aerial refuelers associated with bombers and fighter jets, multiple aerial refuelers with the call signs Gold 31, Gold 32, Gold 41, Gold 42, Gold 71, and Gold 72 flew across the Atlantic. And these call signs are well known to be refueling aircraft for U.S. bombers and fighter jets. So at least half a dozen, if not more, of these refuelers going overseas. There were also at least 3 B-52s tracked going to Diego Garcia. 2 of them flew over the Pacific, and then 1 flew from Louisiana and went out into the Gulf and then over the Central American area. And at least 3 B-52s were tracked flying to Diego Garcia. So if you're not aware what Diego Garcia is, that's an island base owned by the British and leased out to the U.S. military. It's a massive base there. We have bombers and all kinds of stuff there, and it's fairly close to Iran and the Middle East. We used Diego Garcia extensively in all the Middle East wars. So they're now moving B-52s to Diego Garcia. And Trump has been briefed on a quote-unquote big plan that would see the U.S. strike Iranian regime and IRGC facilities in a quote-unquote large-scale bombing campaign, U.S. officials told the Wall Street Journal. Wow. And an Israeli official told Khan News that the IDF and the U.S. are closely coordinating their approach regarding Iran. And Israeli assessments indicate that the Pentagon is preparing for a large-scale military campaign aimed at toppling the Iranian regime. France, the UK, Israel, and the U.S. have coordinated efforts to compile a list of Iranian targets, with Gulf nations contributing intelligence support. And Iran's military spokesman confirmed that Iranian forces have been ordered to respond immediately in the event of an attack. And according to U.S. officials speaking to the Wall Street Journal, President Trump has been briefed on a wide range of military options, including a comprehensive plan involving a shock and awe style strike against Iranian regime and IRGC facilities. A surge of U.S. Navy assets has arrived in the Middle East, including additional destroyers, with some positioned in the eastern Mediterranean and others operating in or near waters surrounding Iran. There's been a significant U.S. airlift activity resuming today, particularly involving the movement of air defense assets. So there's still a lot of air defense assets being moved. And diplomatic efforts between Iran and the U.S. have shown no meaningful progress. And the mayor of Tehran has reportedly begun converting metro stations and parking garages into bomb shelters. Okay, so the mayor of Iran's capital has started converting train stations and parking garages into bomb shelters. And an American air defense battery has already been deployed in Jordan, and more aircraft arrived in the region carrying more air defense batteries. And the Russian President Vladimir Putin met with the senior advisor to Iran's supreme leader on Friday, Russian news agencies reported. So that's a big deal, guys. And Russia is prepared to evacuate its personnel from Iran's Bushehr nuclear power plant if needed amid escalating tensions between the U.S. and the Iranian government, according to Russian state media TASS. Okay, so the Bushehr reactor is right on the Persian Gulf, and it could potentially be bombed by the U.S. So Russia is preparing to evacuate their nuclear scientists from Iran. And the Iranian Navy will conduct exercises with China and Russia in the Sea of Oman and the Indian Ocean over the next few days, Iranian sources told Al Jazeera. And the ongoing airlift of air defense systems and other military equipment to the U.S. Central Command's area of responsibility continued Friday with a C-5 Super Galaxy strategic heavy airlift plane departing Ramstein Air Base in Germany, earlier bound for Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. In the last 24 hours, over 20 C-17 Globemasters and 2 C-5 Galaxies arrived or are currently en route to bases in the Middle East, with the ongoing airlift by the U.S. Air Force appearing to enter its peak. Wow. Very, very serious, guys. 20 plus heavy U.S. military cargo planes. And Saudi Arabia's defense minister said in a private briefing today that Trump would have to take action against Iran, and if he doesn't, it would embolden the regime, 4 sources in the room told Axios. So Saudi Arabia's defense minister wants Trump to attack Iran, but for some reason, Saudi Arabia is not going to allow the U.S. to use its airspace or bases for military strikes against Iran, following several meetings this week in Washington with Saudi defense and intelligence officials. A high-ranking government figure from a state within the Gulf Cooperation Council told Fox News. Okay, so the Saudis, the Israelis, and the U.S. had a meeting this past week about Iran, and the Saudis said, we don't want you to use our bases or our airspace. They're obviously afraid that Iran is going to retaliate by bombing Saudi oil fields, which they've done in the past. And we're also hearing that Azerbaijan is refusing to allow the U.S. to use its airspace. And the Trump administration is holding talks this week with senior Israeli and Saudi defense and intelligence officials as Trump weighs possible military action against Iran, according to Axios. Israeli officials are in Washington to share intelligence on potential targets, while Saudi officials are focused on preventing a wider regional war and are pushing for a diplomatic off-ramp. Trump has not made a final decision, with aides saying diplomacy remains an option despite renewed public threats. Israeli military intelligence chief General Shlomi Binder met with officials at the Pentagon, CIA, and White House, while Saudi Defense Minister Prince Khalid bin Salman is set to meet senior U.S. officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Envoy Steve Witkoff. Mohammed Mokber, an advisor to the Supreme Leader of Iran, warned that any harm to Iran's interests could lead to severe disruption of shipping routes in the Gulf and the Sea of Oman, implying the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So that's a big deal, guys. This could cause oil to skyrocket. And Iranian media is spreading a video created with AI showing coffins wrapped in U.S. flags alongside the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln engulfed in flames. Wow. And satellite images indicate that Iran is working to salvage nuclear materials from damaged sites, according to the Times of Israel. And Israeli airlines are preparing for a range of extreme scenarios due to the risk of escalation with Iran, including potentially limiting flights and evacuating aircraft from Israel. This was reported by Israel Hayom. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu conducted a security assessment yesterday with top officials as Israel assesses Trump is set to conduct a broad campaign against Iran aimed at regime change. So Netanyahu held a security meeting, yesterday. And Reuters is reporting that plainclothes Iranian security forces have rounded up thousands of people in a campaign of mass arrests and intimidation to deter further protests after crushing the bloodiest unrest since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. So this is potentially the bloodiest unrest in Iran since 1979. Absolutely insane. And Iran's IRGC started a naval exercise, and then obviously they're doing an exercise with Russia and China. And the U.S. warned the IRGC to conduct their naval exercise in the Strait of Hormuz in a manner that is safe and avoids unnecessary risk to freedom of navigation for international maritime traffic. And Iran warned ships yesterday that it will be conducting live fire naval drills in the Strait of Hormuz this coming week, according to the Associated Press. A notice to mariners broadcast by VHF Radio said the naval shooting exercises are planned for Sunday and Monday. Wow. And the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, said, quote, "We all agree that ensuring Iran doesn't get that nuclear program is the #1 priority." So the UK supporting strikes on Iran. And the U.S. may carry out a preemptive military operation against Iran and will build up forces in the Middle East, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said. And officials from the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, and Turkey have attempted to urge Iranian leaders to come to the negotiating table, but they acknowledge a deal seems unlikely. And the EU officially designated the IRGC as a terrorist group, and a car in New York City rammed into one of the entrances of the headquarters of a Hasidic Jewish sect known as the Chabad Lubavitch. So it looks like there's already some terrorism starting to pick up off. And we're hearing that the U.S. is going to return one of the seized oil tankers from Venezuela back to Venezuela, the Sofia. According to two officials, the tanker was seized on January 7th by the U.S. Coast Guard. U.S. officials did not say why it's being returned to Venezuela. And Trump said, "I just spoke to the president of Venezuela and informed her that we are going to be opening up all commercial airspace over Venezuela. American citizens will very shortly be able to go to Venezuela and they will be safe there." So, you know, guys, I've always wanted to actually go to Venezuela and see the world's largest waterfalls, the Angel Falls. They're the tallest waterfalls on Earth. That would definitely be cool to see. And on the afternoon of Wednesday, January 28th, A fatal shooting occurred at a Northrop Grumman facility in Linthicum, Maryland, involving contracted security personnel. The incident occurred at approximately 3:35 p.m. An argument between two adult male contracted security guards escalated into a shooting in an office area within this facility. One security worker was shot and pronounced dead at the scene. A suspect is in the custody of Anne Arundel County Police Department. He was reportedly disarmed and detained by a third security guard who intervened before police arrived. Police confirmed the incident was isolated and involved only contractors. No Northrop Grumman employees were involved. So, very strange situation there. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. It looks like things are about to get crazy in Iran. I'm going to be monitoring the situation very closely, and if anything happens, of course, I'll go live. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have notifications turned on. Also, follow me on Twitter. My Twitter account is at NYPrepper1. I post updates there throughout the day, and then also download my free app from the Google Play Store. The links are all in the description down below. And I will be resuming my normal schedule. The last 2 weeks have been very busy because I traveled to Vegas for the SHOT Show, and then I did an expedition to Area 51, and then I had some other things to do as well. So it's been very busy. Sorry I haven't been posting as much, but that's going to change starting this coming week, and I'm going to be going live almost every night. So make sure you're following me, and until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.